Welcome, and thank you for joining the 2025 Action for Impact Summit. I'm Kurt Merriweather, and I'm the moderator for today's panel, Women Leading in Technology. As technology continues to accelerate across industries, it's reshaping not only how we work, but who leads and what leadership looks like. Today's panel brings together leaders from across the technology and STEM landscape to explore how we can build and sustain a collaborative, creative, future-ready workforce. What does the current technology workforce landscape look like? And how are things being disrupted? What skill sets are required to be a successful technology leader in a high performance organization? Joyce, I'm going to start with you.
Well, the current workforce landscape is very chaotic right now because of everything that's going on in the federal government. So it is, and it leads to opportunity actually, because I look at it as an opportunity to either upskill, reskill, or just go do something else. Actually, it helps to develop our core development in our own strategies and in strategies of someplace else. So, if you're not in the STEM field, maybe this is the good time to look at some STEM opportunities. There are a number of free classes through Coursera or Google or Amazon, which are offering some certifications in some of these skills that are going to be prevalent in the next few years, if not forever. You never stop learning, ever. And I think that in that realm, you have to be able to be flexible and adaptable. And those are the two skills that, regardless of where you go or what you do, that is going to be always with you forever.
Yeah, I think Joyce, hit upon the key one there, which is AI and automation. Not AI from the standpoint of not just how we work, but what is work going to look like, in the short term and long term future. Everything is it's almost being rewritten. So it's the idea of following that closely and trying to get ahead of that. And then we also have the rise of hybrid teams. And there are a lot of challenges with that with regard to collaboration tools, leadership styles, even recruitment. And so those two components, I would say, from what I see, are really, really big. And on top of that, how fast the skills are changing, how fast the technology is changing. So my number one skill that I would talk about is what Joyce mentioned, which is adaptability, right? We
Mhm.
have to, embrace change and know that it's here to stay. Used to be back in the day, you'd have these 3 year, 2 year cycles of technology. Now, every week I feel like my phone and my computer are updating with all new features. And so it's leaders who are kind of teaching their teams how to embrace this, not to panic about it, but how to embrace it and how to also have this. I think everybody, not just people in tech, but all people have to have their eye on understanding technology because it's really encroaching now. Like I like to say to my network at the WIT network, we're all women in tech, whether you're in marketing or you're in a hospital or you're in banking. We're all using technology now, and so making it a part of your skill set to understand the technology landscape and how it's going to impact your industry and your role so that you can kind of get ahead of that. I think these are really critical skills for everybody.
You mentioned a lot about preparation, Christine, and one of the things that's critical is building a pipeline of talent for the future.
Mhm.
And I was curious about how we should be thinking about preparing emerging talent, both girls and young women, for careers in STEM, and what are the things that are missing in terms of mentoring, sponsorship, or ways to expose them to additional opportunities. And Rashmi, I know this is an area that you've talked about quite a bit, and so wanted to hear your perspective there in terms of what you think in terms of building pipeline there.
No, that's great, Kurt. I mean, you hit it right on the, like what's really happening right now, especially what Christine talked about with AI. I think, this is an amazing time for young emerging talent. With AI advancements, there's so many possibilities for growth and opportunities. I personally think this new era of technology disruption is the perfect time to create opportunities. Whenever there's a disruption, there's a time to rise and try something new, and this is the time. And opportunities, especially for opportunities for women in STEM, even more so because the numbers for women in STEM is pretty low. I have researched two reports, Women in the Workplace by Lean In and McKinsey, and they've been running this report surveys for since 2015. So very credible source. And Rebooting Representation by Melinda Gates and Pivotal Ventures. And the data shows that women in STEM represent only 26% in the workforce and 11% of C-suite. So I think this is the best time for these women to step up and take those fields. So going back to your question, how can we help them? We can help them by exposing them to the new AI pathways. As organizations are starting to include these AI frameworks in their business, schools are also starting to teach AI curriculum, but there's a huge gap between what's taught at school and what's actually practical reality and experience that organizations look for. So, for these women to be successful in their jobs, we need to bridge that gap and create those career pathways. I founded an organization last year. It's called Uptempo Careers. And it's an organization to elevate women in STEM specifically for this purpose, to bridge that gap. And what we are doing is we are partnering with universities and helping students, giving them practical projects in AI use cases so that when they graduate, they actually have work experience in AI, and it's much easier for them to get those job opportunities. And for anybody who wants to know more about Uptempo, you can go to uptempocareers.com. Thank you.
Excellent. And one of the things you talked about was the preparation that's necessary in terms of technical skills and functional expertise. Um, One thing that we do know, though, is that there's still underrepresentation. And so, how do we deal with that in terms of providing mentoring? But I think even more importantly, sponsorship, which is not just mentoring someone, but also the opportunity to speak their name when they're not present. And so, Christine, I wanted to hear from you around that piece of it. What are the things that we can do once folks have the right skills, is to give them the access to opportunity that they need?
Yeah, sure. So, I think we've made some good progress in getting girls interested in STEM, but it's connecting that interest then to a pathway for a career. So you talked about skills. I'm going to step one step back first and say we need to continue to show the role models. You know, Rashmi just mentioned the low the low percentage of women in the workplace, in technology, and in leadership. But those stories that are there, we have to get them out there. We have to promote them. They can't be what they don't see. It still stands true. So I think we need to all make a concentrated effort to make sure that we're celebrating those stories as much as possible, just so that they can have that inspiration to dream big and know that they can someday be that too. You talked about sponsorship, and I think that is one of the most important things. Having a mentor day or having a mentor program, having a career day, having a coding workshop. These are like one and done kind of engagements that set the stage, provide education, provide inspiration. But what happens after that? We are losing them after that. So in order to keep them in, sponsorship programs where folks are advocating on behalf of those high potentials, where they're looking for opportunities, looking for ways to provide them with stretch projects that are going to give them the skills to round out, what's on their resume already, to help make them, position them better for the leadership roles, advocating for promotions on their behalf, or seeing roles that are out in the company that might make a good fit, and pulling them up. We hear a lot about that, right? Look behind you, pull people up. And so sponsorship beyond mentorship, to me, is one of the most critical and pivotal ways we can impact this. Lastly, it's the skills building, the skills that they need in order to thrive and succeed in a male dominated workforce, right? So things like negotiation skills, leadership skills, confidence building, also self empowerment and speaking up for the self, not waiting to be asked, right? Putting themselves out there. It's all of those types of skills, obviously, on top of the AI and the technology skills, that will help round folks out and help make them viable candidates to grow in the pipeline.
That's excellent. Uh, the idea that it's not just about one-off events, but it's about having a sustained plan to think about how to build skills, how to
Mhm.
provide access to opportunities, and then how to teach uh, women about self-advocacy, so that way, when the opportunity is there, they also have the confidence to walk through the door.
That's
And
right.
so this obviously is something that's going to require an ecosystem approach to changing some of the things that we see. And so, how can we affect the ecosystem using public, private, and academic institutions to enable women to thrive? And Melissa, I know this is an area that's a passion area for you, and so wanted to hear your perspective here on how we can address uh, building those partnerships.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I sit on several academic advisory boards at the University of Nebraska, and it's a topic I researched in depth in my doctoral dissertation. So, when I was in my doctoral studies, I was using data from a study of people with college degrees, and I looked specifically at females graduates that were employed in technology careers and looked for those key college experiences that really correlated with long term career success. And what I found is that women that had access to mentors and internships during their undergraduate studies significantly increased their likelihood of long term technology career success. And this is an area where industry can absolutely help. And it's not that hard to provide the mentorships and to provide the internships. And it really helps those female students get exposure to women in leadership positions so that they, like to Christine's point, they can see successful technology women. They can picture themselves in those same positions someday, and really help set the direction for the career so they don't leave and pursue other opportunities. I would also encourage industry leaders to work with your local universities to make sure that the curriculum that they're teaching is the type of information that you want your graduates, your new hires, to learn. Universities want their graduates to be very employable, and they want to provide those skills to the local market. Industry, we want a pool of highly qualified local talent that we can hire. So it's really just win-win, and we can create that virtuous cycle where female students are set up with the curriculum and the internships, the opportunities to be successful in industry, and then organizations hire those interns and eventually those graduates, those full-time employees, so that they have employees that are confident, they're strong, and they're very capable technology leaders to drive their own technology roadmaps.
If I can add to that, Kurt, what Melissa touched on is such an important point about the industry and the schools partnering together to make this really a time for opportunities for women. What I'm doing is also we go to university, and Melissa, you probably know so much about this, is case competitions. And we take our partners, our business partners, and we go to universities and attend case competitions, judge case competitions. And that's really when you see the students live in action, solving complex projects. And you can see that these are the students that can actually come into your organization and be set up for success. So this is huge, having that private partnership with academic institutions to help these students get to that next level.
To reach back on that, you have to start younger. College students are fine. They're wonderful, but we have a 600,000 person shortage in AI and cybersecurity. We're not going to reach them by just, starting. We have to develop that interest in junior high school and high school. And like you said, they have to see people like us. I am not a technologist. I'm an accidental tourist through technology. And, I have an undergraduate degree in sociology and an MBA in marketing. Where's the technology in that? But I have great soft skills, and that has enabled me to bridge the gap between uh, technology and business. So somebody coming in saying, I don't want to be a coder, you don't have to be, but we have to fill that $600,000 person gap. And we have to be able to educate, not teach, educate 22nd century students with with not going back to 18th century methodology. Come into the class, sit down, I'll give you what I want you to learn. You teach it, you give it back to me, and then you go take this standardized test. Stop it.
That's really powerful. We can't solve tomorrow's problems with yesterday's approaches, and it requires building long-standing partnerships. And the reality is, it's all driven by relationships. And so, being able to have relationships so that we can train folks that want to be trained because they see pictures of themselves around what they can be. And so, I
Can
think
I
you all have articulated that really well.
can I say one more thing? I want to extricate the word train. We train children and animals. We educate people. So I want to have us, I know it's hard because I do it, I still do it. Sometimes I say train, but I want to say educate because educate is a lot longer process and it's continual. You never stop educating and you never stop learning.
Thank you for that. That's right. And so, training we talk about as an industry, education is an ongoing process. And so, it's important to think about the distinctions between the two things as we humanize what we do. And so, thank you for raising that last point. So, we're at the end of our time, and I wanted to get to the lightning round. I know it went so fast. Um, what's one thing that you think every organization or individual should take away to ensure that women are well represented in the future?
I can start. I would just say we need to make space for women. We need diverse thoughts, experiences, backgrounds, perspectives if we're going to lead in technology. So we need to intentionally include women in technology and especially in the tech culture.
Following on top of that, I would add the conversation around sponsorship. So, this should really be a leadership expectation that folks have. That's a way of giving back and looking for those stretch opportunities, looking for, roles that are, could be good stepping stones for those high potential women within their organization. I really wish that not just mentorship, but sponsorship could become more of a corporate leadership expectation.
Joyce?
And we need to be intentional, not just recruitment and pipeline access, but we have to really, really be intentional about how we encourage and engage and retain and sustain women in our programs.
And Rashmi, you have the last word.
I think in this significant time of change, we need to support women, be their advocates, and guide them to lead the future. And I believe mentorship can shape careers and the future of women. If only one ask we can do today is one person, just one person, can mentor one individual, they have now elevated them and shaped their future. That's all it takes. And this is really powerful. And so, if everybody can reflect and say, can I just mentor one individual in my organization and see 10 years from now, where they would be a leader in that organization, and you made a huge, significant impact in their life. So, that's all. Thank you.
I just want to thank you all for sharing your wisdom today. We certainly could have gone much longer. And so, I look forward to seeing what you all will do and being part of today's summit. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.